Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging headfirst into a source detailing a world where survival isn't just about being strong or smart. It's about having this immediate, almost terrifying foresight.
Exactly. We're dissecting a really brutal psychological thriller. It's all centered on this high-stakes competitive game. Think of it as a battle royale of fate.
A battle royal of fate, I like that. And the prize is, well, it's a godhood. And the penalty if you make one wrong move.
Absolute death. Annihilation.
So it's a structure that really grabs you, because the core mechanic is built around something we all have in our pockets.
It is. We're looking at the narrative architecture of a system where 12 participants get what are called future diaries, and they are basically just mobile phones that predict future events.
This isn't just like a vague horoscope, though.
Oh no.
Well.
This is high resolution, predictive insight into a reality that is constantly changing. And the whole contest is managed by these two very powerful, very eccentric beings. The stakes are nothing less than total control over time and space itself.
Okay, so let's get into the centerpiece of all this chaos. Our protagonist, Yukiteru Amano, or Yuki, diary holder number 1.
Right. And when we first meet him, he is the absolute epitome of an introvert. A middle school student, totally alone.
He copes by keeping this diary on his phone, right? He just records everything he sees. An observer.
Meticulously. And his only friends, or so he thinks, are these two beings he just assumes are in his imagination. Deus Ex Machina and his little assistant, Muru.
And that's the genius of the setup, isn't it? His isolation, that self-focus. It makes him the perfect first victim, but also the ideal protagonist to see this world through.
It really is. The narrative just flips everything on its head when those imaginary friends turn out to be terrifyingly real. Deus is the actual god of time and space.
And he's getting old. He needs a successor.
Exactly. So Yuki wakes up one morning, he checks his phone, and it's already logged events that haven't happened yet. A murder, a pop quiz at school.
He must have been completely freaked out.
Well, he confronts Deus, and the god just confirms it. He says, yep, that's real. You're now officially the first diary holder in a survival game you never ever asked to join.
So his diary, which he calls the indiscriminate diary, suddenly becomes his superpower. It's telling him what he's about to see, hear, and think.
He uses it to ace exams at first, avoid minor problems. It seems like a great deal.
But what are the immediate critical limitations of a diary that's based solely on your own perspective?
Well, that's its fatal flaw right there. Its greatest asset is also what makes it so dangerous, because it only records what Yuki perceives, anything happening outside his presence or, say, in a blind spot.
A sneak attack from behind.
A sneak attack, a conversation in another room. His diary is completely blank on the subject. It gives him foresight, sure, but it leaves him incredibly vulnerable.
And that vulnerability is the trigger. It's what brings in the single most defining character of this entire story.
Yuno Gasai, diary holder number 2.
She seems like the perfect classmate on the surface. She's beautiful, she's a top student, but there's something off.
There is. During that first exam where Yuki is cheating with his diary, she's just quietly folding paper into a shape that looks, a little too much like Muru.
And just when Yuki thinks he's got a handle on this new power, his phone flashes that warning.
Dead end. The two most terrifying words in this world. It means, unequivocally, his predicted future ends in his imminent death.
And that's when the dynamic really truly crystallizes. Just appears. She says she knows his fate.
She's not the killer, but she is absolutely the harbinger of a new kind of terror. Her diary is the love diary.
Which is such a critical distinction. It doesn't predict her future.
Not at all. It predicts Yuki's future, specifically everything about him, his surroundings, his status in 10-minute intervals. If he is in danger, she knows exactly how, when, and where.
So she's effectively a 224/7 high-fidelity security system focused entirely on him.
She's the perfect counter to his diary's blind spots. She is his guardian, his protector, but one driven by this overwhelming, frankly terrifying obsession.
That alliance gets forged in fire almost immediately.
Instantly. They cooperate to take out the third holder.
The teacher. The serial killer teacher who is using a death diary to track his victims.
Yuki uses the foresight from Yuno's diary to set up the attack, and he uses a dart to destroy the teacher's phone, the diary itself.
And the aftermath is... it's shocking.
Yeah.
The moment the diary is destroyed, the holder just dissolves. He collapses into a literal black hole and vanishes.
And Yuno, who just watched this temporal annihilation happen, is completely unfazed. She just turns to Yuki and suggests they go grab a bite to eat.
That contrast, that juxtaposition of cosmic horror and, mundane obsession, it sets the tone for everything.
It absolutely does. It solidifies the brutal rules. You destroy the diary, the holder dies. Instantly. And this initial pairing of Yuki, the passive observer, and Yuno, the ultimate dedicated and emotionally unhinged protector, it forms the volatile engine that drives the whole game forward.
Okay, let's step back a bit and really formalize the structure of this contest. Deus sets the clock. It's 90 days, 12 diary holders, 1 winner.
Right. And if those 90 days run out without a winner,
what happens then?
Deus's own body will fail, and the world itself just destabilizes. It collapses into nothing. So the prize, control over time and space, is absolute, and the game is designed to force conflict. You have to remember, these diaries aren't crystal balls. They're more like predictive algorithms.
Which is the key, right? The future isn't set. It can be changed. That's the whole point of the game.
Yeah.
If a holder's prediction changes, their diary updates.
But that dead end signal is the most terrifying thing. We saw it with Yuki. What exactly triggers it?
Is it just knowing you're going to die?
It's a bit more specific. It's triggered by 2 main scenarios. The first is what you said. The diary's algorithm definitively predicts the holder's imminent death. No way out on the current path. The second, and this is more strategically important, is when the predictive futures of 2 diary holders collide in a way that creates a fundamental paradox.
So if my diary says I win a fight, and your diary says you win the same fight.
Exactly. The timelines are incompatible. A dead-end flag appears. It's not just a warning of death. It's a warning that you have to change your path right now or you will die. It forces aggressive, high-risk plays.
And that urgency defines the next player we meet. After holder 3 is gone, we get diary holder 9 or Yumine.
And she is introduced as a pure agent of chaos, an explosives terrorist who uses bombs, radical methods, whatever it takes.
Her diary seems perfect for her, the escape diary.
It's a perfect fit. It meticulously plots out the best possible escape routes from any situation you can imagine. It makes her almost impossible to capture or corner. She can calculate probabilities, temporal bottlenecks. She can slip away from almost any trap.
But her motivations are. They're deeper than just chaos, right? The source is clear. She's not in it for money or simple anarchy.
Not at all. She was a war orphan. She survived this brutal childhood in one conflict zone after another, and her entire goal is to get the ultimate strength and control that godhood represents. It's a way for her to guarantee she never ever loses everything again.
And she demonstrates that motivation in her first big attack, which is targeting Yuki's school.
Right, she doesn't just want to kill Yuki. She wants to expose what she sees as the hypocrisy of the system. And what makes that encounter so psychologically damaging for Yuki is the betrayal she engineers.
That's the truly brutal part.
Me.
Kuryu gives the students and teachers an ultimatum. Hand over Yuki, and I'll spare the school.
And they comply. Instantly. Yuki, the kid who is already isolated, is literally handed over by his classmates, his teachers, his supposed allies.
It's a moment that just shatters his already fragile trust in the world,
right,
and pushes him completely into Yuno's arms.
Of course it does. It confirms his worst fears, that the only person he can truly rely on is the one who is obsessively, pathologically dedicated to him.
Because Yuno, unlike his classmates, is more than willing to sacrifice every single person in that school to make sure Yuki survives.
For her, that is the definition of love. And for Yuki, at that moment, it becomes the only viable path forward.
And then, juxtaposed against all this chaos, we meet Diary Holder 4, Kurosu Keigo, the police chief.
Yes, and his investigation diary predicts crimes, tracks suspects. It gives him this huge overview of the situation.
Kurosu is fascinating because he starts out as this moral anchor in a sea of monsters.
He really is. He allies with Yuki and Yuno, not because he wants to be God, but because he sees the game as this existential catastrophe that needs to be managed. His primary goal is to minimize civilian casualties and stop the competition.
Which puts him in direct moral opposition to basically every other holder.
He's the anomaly, the player driven by civic duty instead of selfish gain. And that, of course, is what sets him up for this inevitable tragic conflict later on.
So if we focus on that core power dynamic for a second, you have Kurosu's broad investigative focus, Yuno's laser focus on Yuki, and Yuki's passive personal perspective. How does the difference in the scope of their diaries affect their strategy?
It forces a constant, unstable synergy. Yuki's indiscriminate diary is broad, but it's just one point of view. It's easily outmaneuvered. Yuno's love diary is targeted and specific. It eliminates his blind spots.
And Kurosu's provides the context.
Exactly. The movements of non-holders, police deployments, infrastructure, their combined foresight creates this temporary, fragile dominance. The second that synergy breaks, they're all exposed. I mean, the source is clear. Without Yuno's constant updates, Yuki would have been assassinated by Holder 3 before the game even really started.
So their alliance isn't built on trust. It's purely pragmatic, built on the reality that two focused diaries are exponentially better than one indiscriminate one.
It's a marriage of convenience in the deadliest sense of the term.
The narrative then takes this turn toward the bizarre and the highly manipulative. We meet Diary Holder 6, Tsubaki Kasugano.
The young, blind priestess of the Holy Eye cult, and her diary is the clairvoyance diary.
Her power is unique, isn't it? It's less about her personal future.
It's about her environment, specifically her followers. She has thousands of cult members, and her diary lets her observe all of their actions, their words, their movements. It gives her this immense, wide-reaching situational awareness. She's like an ancient oracle with a scroll instead of a phone.
And her backstory is absolutely central to her corruption.
Oh, absolutely. Born with severe vision loss, she was kidnapped, suffered intense trauma and isolation within the cult itself, and then eventually rose to become its leader. She's a victim who learned to be a manipulator.
And she uses that power and her trauma to draw Yuki in. She knows her diary is predicting her own dead end for that very day.
Right, so she seeks to use Yuki's unpredictability, the way he changes the future, to avert her own fate. And crucially, she recognizes the psychological fragility of his alliance with Yuno.
She goes right for the weak spot. She immediately starts trying to create friction, warning Yuki that Yuno is a monster who will be his undoing.
And this creates these profound rifts. Yuki is already terrified of Yuno. We learn he counted something like 40 love messages from her in 30 minutes. She knows where he is at all times. Tsubaki just pours gasoline on that fire.
This is more than just a simple warning.
It's a calculated psychological attack. It's aimed at dismantling Yuki's emotional security blanket. Tsubaki forces him to face the reality that his protector is also his jailer.
So he's trapped. If he trusts Yuno, he survives, but loses his freedom. If he trusts Tsubaki, he might find freedom, but risks immediate death.
And that's the moment the conflict shifts from purely physical combat to this internal struggle for Yuki's soul.
While Tsubaki is trying to divide and conquer, another player shows up, also focused on justice. Diary Holder 12, Yomatsu Hirosaka.
The blind man with the acoustic diary, which lets him create these incredibly powerful auditory hallucinations over long distances. His whole mission is justice, and he specifically targets the Holy Eye cult for what he sees as its corruption.
He uses his diary as a psychological weapon. He's creating panic, confusion.
He's radically dedicated to his cause. I mean, he goes so far as to sacrifice one of Ryumene's eyes to help him infiltrate the Holy Eye compound after he captures her. It just shows the incredibly high cost of playing this game.
But for all his impressive ability to sow chaos, Yamatsu's defeated pretty quickly, and honestly anticlimactically by Yuno. What does that tell us about the power hierarchy in this game?
It shows that a specific situational power like creating auditory chaos loses out to the absolute strategic advantage of knowing your enemy's every move, which is what Yuno has. Yamatsu's focus on justice made him predictable. Yuno's focus on Yuki made her adaptive and lethal.
So pure intention, whether it's moral like Kurosu or justice-driven like Yamatsu, is consistently outmatched.
It's outmatched by ruthlessness and obsession every single time in this game.
And now we hit what is, for me, the narrative pivot point. The moment of irreversible trauma for Yuki. The corpse revelation.
Right. He investigates Yuno's house while she's sleeping. He finds a hidden, locked room. And inside, 2 decomposing corpses.
This isn't just a moment of tension. This is the absolute shattering of his fragile reality.
It confirms every single dark suspicion he had about Yuno. Her obsession wasn't just, some cute stalker behavior. It was rooted in this deep, violent instability. The source material really emphasizes the chilling normalcy of the house, and then the abject horror of that secret room.
And that discovery forces that profound psychological shift we were talking about earlier. Yuki stops being a victim, just looking for safety.
He starts acting like a calculating survivor. He realizes Yuno is a monster, but she's the most efficient, the most devoted weapon he has.
So he embraces a calculated manipulation.
He does. His immediate priority is survival, and if Yuno's pathological love is what keeps him safe, he will cultivate that love, no matter what the moral cost is. He uses her as a shield. He leverages her obsession to secure his own position in the game.
This is the moment the protagonist really turns dark.
It's the point of no return for him.
And speaking of dark forces in small packages, we meet Holder 5, Uju Rizuki.
A seemingly innocent child. A toddler, really, but unbelievably dangerous. His diary, the illustrated diary, is weak. It only gives these short, vague predictions for the next 24 hours.
Which highlights a key theme, right? The diary is just a tool. The holder's intellect is the real weapon.
Exactly. Rizuki makes up for his weak foresight with just meticulous planning and psychological warfare. He sets these incredibly elaborate traps. Poisoning food, trying to electrocute them with a bath filled with salt water and appliances.
He uses his innocence as a disguise for this sociopathic planning.
And he manages to push Yuno to her absolute limit. During their confrontation, we see the depth of Yuno's commitment to Yuki. She literally absorbs a cloud of poisonous gas that was meant for Yuki just to save him.
That sacrifice, as horrifying as it is, proves her loyalty in the most tangible way possible, even with the bodies upstairs.
And this incident brings back Ryuminena. She sees Yuno's capacity for both sacrifice and monstrous destruction, and she offers Yuki this crucial, dark piece of advice.
Kill Yuno now before she kills you.
Ryu sees the inevitable tragedy of this partnership. She recognizes that Yuno's love is a ticking time bomb.
And that marks the end of Yuki's innocence. He's dealt with sociopathic kids, murderous cult leaders, terrorists, and now a hardened survivor has explicitly told him his only protector is also his executioner.
His world has completely shrunk down to this single toxic relationship.
The middle stage of the game then just accelerates into this phase, defined by the complete failure of trust. And it's perfectly illustrated by the kennel attack.
It is. Yuki tries to find some semblance of normalcy. He attempts to form alliances outside the diary holders with his friends Hinata, Mao, and Kusaka.
His last attempt to cling to his old life.
And the game immediately brutally punishes him for it. His friends betray him. They lead him right into an ambush.
They're attacked by a horde of controlled dogs, which leads to the reveal of the true 10th holder, Sokushima, and not his father.
Right. The father has the breeder diary, which lets him control and command canine forces. And he had, at first, transferred the diary to his daughter, Hinata. He was trying to protect her, making her a target for only a short time.
And we need to talk about the deception with Kishi here, the so-called detective.
Yes. He was introduced as this brilliant guy who could predict human behavior. He used bluffs, confidence. He even won a major bet by predicting a coin flip. He fooled everyone into thinking he was a real holder.
He was a complete fake. But the power of human bluffing and psychological insight proved to be almost as effective as a minor diary.
It absolutely did. The original Holder 10, the father, he tried to permanently transfer the diary to Kishi after realizing Kishi suspected his identity, but the rules of Desus' game rejected it. This confined the father to a specific, trackable location, which is how Kurosu, the police chief, found and eliminated him earlier.
So Kishi's presence is a reminder that you don't need a supernatural phone to be a threat in this world.
It also foreshadows Kurosu's increasingly compromised moral position. His actions are getting darker. He's getting closer to the ruthless tactics of the other holders. And his true motivation for joining the game becomes the focus of the next major conflict.
Let's talk about Kurosu's downfall. It's arguably the most tragic arc in the whole story because he was fighting for a truly sympathetic, non-selfish reason.
He desperately needed God's power to cure his terminally ill son. Kill Yuki. It was to create a legal situation. A shootout provoked by the holder where he could eliminate Yuki without destroying his own reputation or violating his oath as an officer.
The level of calculation required to maintain his external morality while planning a murder it's profound. But Yuno sees right through it.
Instantly, thanks to the precision of the love diary. And her reaction is, even for her, completely disproportionate.
She bursts into the station, gets into a full-scale shootout.
Or violating his oath as an officer.
The level of calculation required to maintain his external morality while planning a murder it's profound. But Yuno sees right through it.
Instantly, thanks to the precision of the love diary. And her reaction is, even for her, completely disproportionate.
She bursts into the station, gets into a full-scale shootout, and executes Kurosu, who is wearing a bulletproof vest, after he tries to break their alliance.
Her willingness to take on an entire police force to protect Yuki just highlights the absolute depth of her pathological dedication.
And the consequences are immediate. Yuki and Yuno are now public enemies. They're fugitives, hunted by every police agency, totally cut off from any chance of a normal life.
That isolation drives them straight into the hospital siege and into a temporary forced alliance with Uyu Mineng.
Uyu forces this alliance using the most cynical leverage you can imagine, Kurosu's wife and son.
She holds them hostage in the hospital, forcing Yuki and Yuno to cooperate with her against the other threats. And this is
Choices. He wasn't just trying to win, he was fighting against fate itself.
And the resolution to this conflict is surprisingly honorable. Ryu may be seeing a reflect duty and legacy over omnipotence.
It's a profound demonstration that even in this game, some players will choose the dignity of death over the moral cost of victory.
But for Yuki, there's no turning back. He just watched the most moral player fail, and it only solidifies his own path toward ruthless self-interest.
The game now enters confrontation, culminates at the collapsing Sakura Tower, and the loss Yuki sustains is just immediate and devastating.
His mother is stabbed by his father, who is trying to steal money from her, and then moments later his father is stabbed and killed by an agent working for the 11th holder.
He watches both his parents die, one after the other.
And that final brutal trauma seals his commitment to the game. He realizes survival isn't enough anymore. His new all-consuming motivation is to win godhood so he can resurrect his parents and undo this tragedy.
So he shifts from a calculating survivor to this nihilistic force, determined to win no matter the cost.
Exactly. And the
most powerful analytical tool in the entire game.
It is terrifyingly powerful. It gives him the ability to monitor all the other diaries simultaneously. He doesn't need to predict his own future because he knows everyone else's. He sees all the strategic weaknesses, the dead-end flags, the alliances of every single competitor.
And his ultimate conspiracy involves Deus himself.
Never just a win. It was to destabilize the entire system to ensure his victory by default.
His strategy is just mass chaos.
Yeah.
He plans to distribute future diaries to the entire population of the city.
Think about it. The system is designed for 12 competing futures. If millions of people suddenly get predictive diaries, the cognitive load causes the system collapse. It accelerates Deus' death and forces the game to end immediately, with the mayor inheriting the throne.
And to pull this off, he needs Diary Holder 8, Kamado Ushita.
The dedicated owner of a mother's village orphanage, she has the creator diary,
which is powerful, but morally innocent in her hands.
It allows her to give temporary diaries to others. He turns an agent of nurturing into the catalyst for widespread destruction.
This overwhelming chaos is what precipitates Yuki's final, irreversible, dark transformation.
Driven entirely by this utilitarian justification, he needs to resurrect his parents. He turns on the few friends he has left, Hinata, Mao, and Kusaka, who were actively trying to save Kamado and stop the mayor.
He ruthlessly betrays them, kills them. He justifies it as a necessary step towards the greater good of bringing it. But just before his descent is complete, Kishi, the fake detective, the one who relied on human observation, leaves one critical, final piece of information.
As Yuno eliminates him, he manages to scrawl one phrase on his phone. There are two Yunos.
And that phrase is the narrative key. It unlocks the true complexity of the entire story, where Murumuru, Deus' assistant, is finally forced to intervene and reveal the existence of two previous timelines. So let's unpack the World 1 reveal.
Suicide after they became God, believing they could then resurrect everyone and live happily.
But it didn't work out that way.
Yuno survived the suicide attempt. As the new god of World 1, she learned the ultimate tragic truth. Godhood gives you power over time and space, but it does not give you the power to resurrect dead souls.
So the victory was meaningless. She was alone, omnipotent, and couldn't get back the Yuki she loved.
So instead of accepting that, W1 Yuno decided to abuse her power. She jumped into a new timeline, World 2 are Yuki's current reality. She found the innocent original World 2 Yuno, killed her.
Who was the third head corpse found in her house.
Exactly. She killed her and took her place. She then set the game in motion all over again, desperate to relive the romance and win the game with a fresh Yuki.
And the crucial details that Murumuru from World 1 helped her do this.
Yes. The W in Murumuru sealed away Yuno's painful memories of the original tragedy and the double suicide. That's all.
She was a broken interdimensional survivor of a successful timeline reset, driven by this profound pathological attachment to the ghost of a man she loved.
Her love was a temporal parasite. It was trying to recreate a lost past, no matter the consequences for the present or the future.
The scale of the game is now revealed to be cosmic. Yuki, armed with the truth about his beloved's identity and her temporal crimes, finally understands the scope of this catastrophe.
And he knows he has to stop her. He has to stop W1 Yuno from killing him and resetting the timeline again, which is her ultimate goal for achieving eternal happiness.
So the final confrontation involves two beings who are wielding god-level power. W1 Yuno is powerful, but not omnipotent in this new world.
Right. Delis, sensing Murumuru's betrayal and Yuno's manipulations, had taken, capable of traversing timelines and intervening. So Uryu jumps in and joins Yuki in this desperate final leap to World 3. A new, innocent timeline for his son immediately. She exposes Tsubaki's corrupt deputy before the cult gets fully corrupted. She basically prevents the chaos from ever starting. Her actions stabilize World 3, turning it into this happy, successful world.
And the final heart-wrenching confrontation happens in World 3. The W3 Yuno's parents, whose relationship was repaired by Uryu's interventions, too, where her death grants him the technical victory in the game.
And Yuki is crowned god of World 2, but it's the ultimate, desolate victory. He's omnipotent, but
only to watch paradise from the outside.
A truly tragic end.
This entire deep dive has taken us from a simple survival game to this profound exploration of, well, temporal physics, trauma, and the absolute limits of power. If we synthesize the core themes, the conclusion is bleak, but kind of unavoidable.
I think the core theme is the cost of absolute power and the fragility of reality itself when it's subjected to overwhelming personal desire. Yuki achieved omnipotence, he became God, but the cost was total solitude. He sacrificed his entire world just for the privilege of observing a happy timeline he could never ever join.
And we have to revisit Yuno's love. It wasn't simple infatuation, it was narrative rules, especially that multiple timeline twist and the very specific diary mechanics can transform a simple battle royale into a cosmological tragedy.
Right. Knowledge in the form of foresight is crucial for survival, but obsession, whether it's Yuno's love or Yuki's desire for temporal resurrection, ultimately leads to ruin. The path to victory was paved with betrayal and isolation.
So Yuki did achieve his goal, in a way. He saved a version of Yuno, ensuring her happiness in World 3, but he did it by sacrificing his own timeline and his own happiness.
Which brings us to the final provocative thought for you to consider. If you were granted godhood, and with it perfect knowledge of all possible outcomes, the totality of the past, present, and future, would that ultimate knowledge be a blessing of power, or would it be the ultimate isolating curse that forever confirms your own suffering?